The Simtech, who are of course not here, Pacific and 40, you need somewhere between $5 and $10 million to compete at that level if anyone's thinking of doing so.
Lap 58 out of the centre turn, through turns 3 and 4, up to that very, very difficult turn 5. This is it. Look for the tyres on the right. They're the ones that Barrichello thumped into yesterday. Gearbox first, having already hit the Armco on the right. And he was doing about 140 miles an hour, even after it. Schumacher there, he's slowing. Schumacher's slowing. Michael Schumacher is in trouble in the Canadian Grand Prix on lap 58. He's not touring, but he's going a heck of a lot slower than he was before. Does this mean to say that we are going to see a Ferrari win the Canadian Grand Prix, and that Alesi is going to be the man who does it on his birthday? Schumacher's losing time all the time. He's on lap 58 now. It's a 69-lap race. He is very definitely going to have to come in at minimum. He's round the hairpin now. This is a highly dramatic development, to put it very mildly indeed. Remember, Michael Schumacher went out at San Marino when he had a crash, and he has won all the other races except Argentina, where he finished third. So now look at the Minardi, which is miles an hour slower, and the Ferrari enthusiasts are going mad. They can smell victory for Jean Alesi. And wouldn't it be wonderful? Terribly bad luck for Benetton, for Schumacher, of course, but hopes all round the world, I'm sure, are that Ferrari is going to do it. Well, Michael Schumacher's had a good fair whack of wins into the pits. And we're going to be watching very carefully indeed to see Jean Alesi take the lead. And it looks to me as though it's a retirement. The steering wheel comes out. Michael Schumacher will come out. This is the end of his race.
Well, it may not be. I think if they're looking at changing wheels, it could be a gear selection problem. The gear selection switches are on the steering wheel of the car, and Schumacher could have been stuck in a gear, and I think that's what's probably happened there. They've got the computer on the side. They're going to look at reprogramming the electronics of the car, and I'm sure it relates to gear change, but either way, he's still going to be out of the race in terms of leading.
Alesi leads the Canadian Grand Prix on lap 59 out of 69. Rubens Barrichello goes up into second place. Eddie Irvine goes up into third place. Jordan and Peugeot are going to finish well up, and it looks as though both of them are going to finish if they just keep going. Michael Schumacher has got the engine going again, but he's slipping down all the time. He's currently in fourth place. He's currently in fifth place because Panis has gone through. He will soon be in sixth position because because Brundle will be going through. Gerhard Berger will be up into sixth position, and Brundle will be fifth. Keep out of the way, says the mechanic to the cameraman.
Now let's try and listen to the engine of that Benetton to see if he's now got gear changing capability. He's now in the pit lane, the 120km speed limit applying. We've lost him, but we'll watch his lap times, and indeed the way he's going now looks straight away to me as if they've managed to fix the problem. He's going quicker already than he was able to before, and we need to see how much time he's lost in that, and that was 1 minute 32 seconds Schumacher has lost. That will put him back to something like 8th place.
There is race leader Jean Alesi. Michael Schumacher is down to 7th place. There are 10 laps left, including the one that is left, the one that they're on, and the Ferrari flags are flying high in Montreal.
Well, I must say, if anyone can benefit from Michael Schumacher's bad luck there, I'll be delighted if it's Jean Alesi there, because apart from being his birthday, he has yet to win a Grand Prix, incredibly. And to win your first Grand Prix on your birthday will be emotional for anybody, but it'll be particularly so for Jean Alesi, and it'll actually also take Ferrari through to 105 Grand Prix wins to make them the most successful Grand Prix team in history. That's currently tying between McLaren and Ferrari on 104.
Well, I don't know how you feel at home. I can tell you I'm nearly through the roof here. This is a terrific development, and Alesi now is up, and Gerhard Berger is up, right up with the rear wing of Martin Brundles-Ligier, who is still staving off Berger, who tries hard again as they come through to complete the lap and start a new one. They're in 5th and 6th places. Incidentally, the highest position that Jordan have ever had in a Grand Prix is 3rd, and they are currently 2nd and 3rd. That would give them 10 points in the Constructors' Championship. It would raise their stock very high in France. And with Peugeot, here is a replay of Gerhard Berger and Martin Brundle almost coming together at the hairpin. Martin holds his position. He will not be intimidated by Gerhard Berger. I wouldn't like to be trying to intimidate Martin Brundle. He's a very tough chap.
And this is an incredibly demanding time for Brundle, because to have somebody as close behind as that, somebody that you know is quicker, and yet you know that you've got the right to be there all the time that you can, driving in a reasonable way. Martin's going to be spending more time looking in his mirrors than he is going forwards, or certainly very close to it. But it's important that he doesn't make mistakes, because Berger's best chance of getting by Brundle is going to come from pushing Brundle that hard that Brundle will run wide coming out of a corner and perhaps lose momentum and allow Berger to come alongside on the approach to the next and then outbrake him. It's that kind of sequence, and it can take 2 or 3 corners of building up, closing the gap as we look at Jean Alesi out, leading the race now by 22 seconds from Rubens Barrichello. It's going to take a bit of planning there.
Well, Rubens Barrichello,
Damon, do you feel a little bit better knowing that Schumacher's dropped back into the points?
I think for me it's a help if that,
sorry, we know that Damon's round the back of the pits. It's very difficult to get through to him electronically, but Jean Alesi on lap 61 out of 69 is pacing himself, because Barrichello is actually lapping a bit faster, about half a second faster in second place, but he's 21 points, well, over 21 seconds behind the Ferrari, and that is Eddie Irvine who is third. And if Eddie Irvine finishes in third position in the Jordan, it would be his first time on the podium in a Grand Prix. He's had a 4th, he's had 5th places, he's had a 6th place, but he's never stood up there on the podium, and he's certainly never been there with a teammate, of course. That is Olivier Panis, who is in 4th position, and the order as Panis comes up behind Pierluigi Martini in the Minardi, who's had 2 penalty stops and is in 12th place. The order on lap 62 with 7 to go, under 21 miles, about 20 miles left now, possibly for Jean Alesi to win his first Grand Prix, and for Ferrari to win their first Grand Prix since Germany last year when Gerhard Berger was first. But Alesi leads Barrichello by 22 seconds. Barrichello leads Irvine by 6.6 seconds. And, well, is that a Ferrari on the left? Is it?
I think that's probably Brundle.
It's Berger and Brundle. Berger and Brundle have sorted themselves out. They have resolved their battle by taking each other off. And that, of course, here is a replay. Look, you see, Gerhard Berger, this is turn 1, tries to take Martin Brundle. Well, I'm always loath to blame anybody, because unless you're sitting in the cockpit, you can't know. But now we're looking at it from Brundle's car. This is turn left into turn 1. Now let's see what happens to Gerhard Berger. There he is. He's trying to go through on the inside, but Brundle is already turning in. Berger must have been up on the grass, and if anybody was at fault, Jonathan, I would have said it was Gerhard.
I agree entirely. I think that was tremendously opportunist from Gerhard Berger. He had no real chance of that coming off. He would have known Brundle would have protected the line, and it was actually good for us that Martin Brundle happened to have the one and only rearward-facing camera of any of these cars to capture it, and we could see just how far back Berger was on the approach to that corner. He wasn't even desperately close and able to come up alongside.
Now, Tony Jarnid has been able to talk to Damon Hill, and he can tell us what he said.
Yeah, I'm sorry, we were breaking up behind the pits there, and we were in a huge rugby scrum of press, anxious to talk to Damon. He spoke to us first. He is extremely angry, and he wasn't at all pacified by the fact that Schumacher had dropped back out of the points. He's still angry about the fact that the gearbox had been losing hydraulic pressure, and he was stuck in 6th gear. And he said, we've been going backwards all weekend. We've got to try so much harder. We really are in big trouble. And he said he can't emphasize it enough. And he turned on his heels and walked away.
Well, you can understand him feeling fed up. Not as fed up as he might have done if Michael Schumacher had had another 10 points. Well, the retirements are now up to 12, because as you watch race leader Jean Alesi on lap 63 with 6 to go, out have gone Pierluigi Martini, Martin Brundle, Gerhard Berger, Damon Hill, and Mark Blundell, Ukko Katayama, Bertrand Gachot, Heinz-Harald Frentzen, Jean-Christophe Bouillon, David Coulthard, Johnny Herbert and Mika Hakkinen, and we are now down to 12 runners out of the 24 who started. Exactly half the field has retired, and leading is Alesi. And just as I said that Schumacher had only got to pace himself to victory, only for him to retire, I better not say the same thing about Jean Alesi, although it is true. Barrichello is second, 23 seconds behind. Irvine is still third, and I wouldn't be at all surprised, notwithstanding the fact that Irvine has got a second closer to his teammate, if the Jordan management had not said on the radio, just hold positions, fellas. The last thing we want is to lose second and third places by you hitting each other. And Barrichello certainly wouldn't be anxious to yield to Eddie Irvine. There is Irvine. Given that Barrichello has been consistently beaten by Irvine, and Barrichello will be more than anxious to score World Championship points. He's had a third position in the Jordan team. He's never been on the second step of the podium. It looks as though he could be today. And behind those two, it's still Parnis, the other Ligier, of course, that's David Coulthard on the right with Frank Williams. Parnis is fourth. Schumacher is now back into fifth position, and he's lapping 4 seconds faster than Rubens Barrichello, who is second. But Jean Alesi, as if to sense the danger that he might be in, although it's a very remote danger, has just speeded up a second faster than he was before, and it's still Alesi leading on lap 65, 23 seconds. Schumacher is 18 seconds behind Parnis, so I can't see him doing better than fifth position and 2 points unless somebody in front of him strikes a problem.
Well, you're probably right, but he is lapping 3 seconds a lap faster than Olivier Parnis, who's ahead. I'm sure Parnis can speed up by a second, and that's probably going to be enough to fend off any late charge from Schumacher. But Schumacher, I'm sure, will be on the charge. His times, he's certainly the fastest car out there at the moment by well over 1.5 seconds quicker than anybody else who's running. But the incident we saw there with Berger and Brundle does just emphasize how difficult it is to overtake in Formula One. In qualifying, Berger was 2 seconds a lap faster than Brundle, and one could probably assume that their performance on the track in the race would have given a similar level of difference in pace, in that Brundle was probably lapping around about 2 seconds a lap slower than Berger could have done, because both were on the same fuel strategy of stopping once, and yet Berger could not find a way. There we go, Schumacher, as we said, really turning it on now, setting the fastest race lap. He's got nothing to lose. If he goes off the road now, he'll lose 2 points, which is not going to be of particular significance to him, but what he will be determined to do is try and close that gap, and he's now again taken 3.5 seconds off Parnis. I don't think he's going to make it, but he is going to be close by the end. But it's so difficult, as we were saying, with Brundle and Berger to get an overtaking margin on the brakes, even when you've got Ferrari levels of power and straight line speed, is tremendously difficult. And in fact, Montreal is certainly not one of the hardest circuits to overtake on. It's at best medium, and although the grip of the cars has been reduced this year and the horsepower reduced with the engines coming down from 3.5 litres to 3 litres, these cars are still lapping only 1.5 to 2 seconds slower than they were last year, when they had much more downforce and much more power. And that again just shows how much natural development of technology and therefore pace there is from these cars year by year, and one can't help wondering whether or not we shall see any further regulations to endeavour to slow the cars down and make braking distances longer in the future.
Jean Alesi there, exiting the hairpin to come through and complete his 66th lap out of 69. Really does look as though he is on course for his first ever Grand Prix win. In this, his 91st Grand Prix. And Jean has had some tough luck. He started his Grand Prix career with Tyrrell. I remember at Phoenix, all Formula One enthusiasts will, how he actually led Ayrton Senna in the McLaren and took the lead from him. There's his pit signal going out. Alesi's heart will certainly be beating fast. He's already had a pole position in his career. He's been second 6 times. He's been third 10 times. He's never had a victory. Nobody deserves one more than he does. And Jean Todt, who is the team manager of Ferrari, will, in his inscrutable way, be just ticking off the laps which remain. This is lap 67. There's only lap 68 and 69 between Jean Alesi and the checkered flag and victory as Eddie Irvine crosses the line in third position. He's now 8 seconds behind Barrichello, so he's either decided to settle for third place or it's been suggested to him from the Jordan pit that he should do so. Lap 67 then, Alesi, Barrichello, Irvine, Harness in the Ligier, Schumacher flying, and another record lap, 1:29.2, which is 3 seconds faster than Alesi, but it's not going to be enough. Morbidelli is 6th, Salo is 7th, Bader is 8th, Inouye is 9th, Brundle is out, and there are just 9 runners left, but Martin Brundle is currently classified in 10th position.
Yes, I suspect you're right. Schumacher is now 2.5 seconds quicker than Panis, because while Schumacher's gone quicker, Panis has responded just to pull out enough pace to keep himself ahead of Schumacher, and I think he'll be successful. But further back, another driver has driven superbly here today, and that's Gianni Morbidelli in the Arrows car, and that is powered by the Hart V8 engine from the small Harlow-based company, and they've been doing a sterling job throughout the year, running round about 12th, 13th position in qualifying, and they're Morbidelli there. And what is sad is that it may be this is Morbidelli's last race, because he does not bring any funds to the team, and the Arrows or the footwork team desperately needs money, and it may be that Morbidelli will be replaced by Pedro Lamy, the Portuguese driver who had his legs smashed in a horrendous Silverstone testing accident at the beginning of last year. And that would be a great shame, because he is an undoubted talent and one that really does deserve to be in a good car.
Lap 68, Martin Brundle is with Tony Jardine.
Martin, terribly hard luck from where we looked. It looked as if it was Gerhard's fault. What did you think?
Yes, I was defending my line, but it looks like Gerhard must have lost it and gone completely out of the vision of my mirrors. And I turned in as per normal speed, and suddenly there was a flying Ferrari coming to tee.
Great disappointment for you, obviously.
Yeah, I've driven a good race and we've made some good progress in the team. I'm sad for the team we didn't get 2 cars in the points. Hopefully my teammate's going to come home with a good result here, and it'll be a good team weekend.
Are you pleased about Ferrari being ahead at the moment?
No.
Thanks, Martin.
You can always rely on Martin Brundle to give you an honest answer. And Jean Alesi sees P1 on his pit board as he starts his 69th and last lap. Turn 1, turn 2, there are on this lap 15 turns altogether, 15 corners, and Alesi is really within sight of his first and very well-deserved victory.
Ferrari having done a great job, and here is the reward here. Alesi having the reliability, and Alesi really responding beautifully. Wonderful victory for Alesi. Gerhard Berger not quite being on the pace and then charging into the back of Martin Brundle, but Benetton probably would have won. We mustn't forget this. Schumacher continues to take fastest laps, lap by lap, and if it hadn't been for what I'm sure was a gear selection problem, he would have been out in front, whilst Williams have clearly got more work to do on pace, they've got more work to do on reliability, and David Coulthard too undoubtedly made a driving error. But Jordan really are one of the heroes of the race here. Second and third place for Jordan is a superb effort, and they really do deserve it thoroughly.
Out of the hairpin, that's turn 10, up to the chicane, that is turn 11 out of 15. Jean Alesi potentially victorious, just a few hundred yards, because he's now up to turn 12. The Ferrari mechanics are already leaning over the Armco, ready to greet him home, and what a hero he's going to be, not just here in Canada, but all around the world with Ferrari fans, and particularly, of course, in Italy. Jean Alesi wins the Canadian Grand Prix to euphoric applause all the way round. Everyone will be delighted. I think, well, possibly Michael Schumacher won't be, and Damon Hill won't. But not only does Alesi win, but the fact that he has got 10 World Championship points, and Benetton, by virtue of Schumacher only being in 5th position, scoring 2 points, that means to say that Ferrari goes back into the leadership of the World Championship for Constructors, which they held in Spain, lost at Monaco, and have regained here in Canada. And this is reprehensible, extremely reprehensible. The fans have broken ranks and crowded onto the track. There's some talk of there not being a Canadian Grand Prix next year. And if that is so, the fact that the fans have invaded certainly isn't going to help. They're pouring through holes in the netting. There's one in front of me, and it's a solid wodge of people. But the confirmation is that Jean Alesi has won a superb victory for himself and Ferrari in the Canadian Grand Prix. That Jordan, in the form of Rubens Barrichello and Eddie Irvine, have scored 10 World Championship points, finishing second and third. Ligier have again finished in the points with Olivier Panis, who scored a point in Spain. Michael Schumacher's consolation prize, having led the race for so long, was 2 points for fifth position. And believe it or not, they're still finishing as the fans pour onto the course. I'm sure the FIA, the governing body of motorsport, are going to have some very strong condemnation of people here. And in sixth position is Morbidelli. Now, the 9 finishers, only 9 finished out of the 24 who started. And look at Jean Alesi out of the cockpit. Has he kept the engine running? No, he has not. Well, he may conceivably be out of fuel, but I suspect he's just so overcome with emotion in front of this enthusiastic Canadian crowd with so many Ferrari flags, is that he just lost the motor. That's Rubens Barrichello, who's obviously as pleased. So Alesi getting a lift from Michael Schumacher. And that reminds me of that evocative situation when Nigel Mansell gave Ayrton Senna. Isn't it lovely to see real emotion and happiness? So often you see drivers in the interview room, the first 3, looking as though they've been given a £5 note and had a tenner taken away from them. But Alesi, absolutely overjoyed, and he's every reason to be. The Canadian Grand Prix has been won on his 31st birthday by Jean Alesi for Ferrari, with Barrichello second, Irvine third, Panis fourth, Schumacher fifth. Morbidelli gets that first World Championship point for the Arrows team for a very long time. To be honest, I can't remember when they last got one. But this is a rich reward for Brian Hart and his small band of engine people at Harlow in Essex. They've done a superb job. And we've got Eddie Jordan with Tony Jardine.
Eddie, it's not just an emotional day for Ferrari, but also for you, second and third. How are you feeling at the moment?
Well, I thought I'd always be overjoyed for Jean to win a Grand Prix, but on this occasion I wish he'd delayed it a little bit.
Yesterday you were depressed, but today you're extremely happy, man. You've turned the whole thing around.
Well, I wouldn't say that yet. You know, we're very realistic about our performance. Still got to get through scrutineering, of course, but really the team worked well today. Both drivers acted in the way that I feel that we can do, and it's just frustrating when you know it's there, but you can't really make it happen, and that's what happened on a couple of races recently. So to have both on the podium together, I suppose this is a new landmark for Jordan. We dreamed about podiums, but both on the same time, it's just amazing.
Were you worried at any stage about both of them running close together?
Did have a little quiet word with Gary and said, Gary, what's the strategy here? Are we going to say, you know, what really ought to be said? And we decided to leave it. Both drivers knew where they were on the fuel. They both drove absolutely immaculate races and exactly to orders. So we were overjoyed, I have to say.
Thank you, Eddie.
Well, it's a particularly wonderful day for Eddie Jordan, because not only did his drivers Rubens Barrichello and Eddie Irvine finish second and third, but in a way Jean Alesi is Eddie Jordan's driver, because Jean won the European Formula 3000 Championship in 1988 as an Eddie Jordan driver. So it's a wonderful day for the Irish, it's a wonderful day for the Italians in the form of Ferrari, and it's a wonderful day for the French, of course. Peugeot second and third, Alesi's won the race.
And the drivers are in fact being waved there, in case you wonder what they're doing up on that platform. But it's wonderful to see a driver who is enjoying winning so very much, and also a driver
who is being congratulated by so many other people around him. We can see it there. And Michael Schumacher was clearly fulsome in his praise for Alesi's efforts. And Alesi, you know, is a driver who is admired for his brio, for his pace by everyone. Everyone knows he's full of bravado, courage, but when he's not annoyed, he's an extremely nice man.
Just listen to the crowd. You'd think it was Italy and not Canada. That shows you how popular Alesi is. That shows you how popular a Ferrari win is, because with no disrespect to two very fine teams in Benetton and Williams, it's refreshing to see another one right up at the front there. And Ferrari's prophecy that we're going to win in Canada has turned out to be right, fortuitously maybe, but the fact is that they did so. Jean Alesi on the left, Rubens Barrichello, the protege of Ayrton Senna, who goes back to Brazil every so often and was getting pretty downcast, but how happy he is, and not half as happy as Jean Alesi. Lovely man. Now let's see if we can see Eddie Irvine on the right. First time on the podium. Joy abounds in Montreal. It's going to be a very happy crowd that goes home.